Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Skits Tut. And today we're going to be talking about the enemy spawning randomly. So, if you notice that the enemy is no longer visible in the scene because I pretty much had created another enemy. And as you see right here, I turned them into prefabs, and you basically just drag it into the project, and that's how you make a prefab in case you did not know. And if you notice, there's a whole bunch of these little dots everywhere on the scene. That's pretty much the spawn zone. So went to what I called the level design holder, right clicked, created an empty object. I named it enemy spawn zone. So it's basically going to be the holder for the spawn zones. I created one spawn zone by right clicking, creating an empty, and just went right here to the gizmos and I added the gizmo, and that's the dot that you're seeing. It makes your empty objects visible, and it's just easier to line them up where you want them. So once I created that one, I basically duplicated it a whole bunch of times until I got the areas that I want my enemies to be able to spawn. And on the enemy spawn zones empty is where I had put my script. So as you see for spawn zones, I'm just going to put in the order according to their elements into the array. And I created another one for enemy. So if you have more enemies, which I'm sure you would, this is just for a basic tutorial, so I didn't want to get too deep into designing on it. So I just made an extra enemy so that you could see that it can randomly select from the array a random enemy and to a random location on the board, one of these dots. And that's what we'll be doing. Now, before we actually start on that code, I did realize a bug while I was testing this for the item drop. So basically is what was happening is whenever you would shoot the enemy and it dies, it takes the extra 0.25 for it to actually be destroyed. So it gives your player a chance to shoot another bullet, and if two bullets hit the collider while it's dead, it will actually cause more than one item to drop. So to fix that bug, all I did is I accessed the enemy through collision. I grabbed its 2D collider and I just disable it. I set it to false, and now the bullets, once it's dead, there's no collider, so the items won't keep dropping. So if you want to fix that in your code, if you've been following the tutorial, perfect. That's how you do it. Alright, so our enemy spawn, we're going to be using collections, scene management, and it'll look familiar if you watched the last video, except for this time we did a transform series of arrays, and that's because we just want the position of where they're located. And then for the enemies, I just made it for a game object. I made some integer variables. I hard coded 0 and 0 for total enemies and total spawns, and that way whenever it counts them, it starts from 0, which I believe you can just leave it blank, but I just like to be a little bit more thorough with it. It makes me sleep better at night. So anyway, the spawn index and enemy index, this is actually going to be what's going to pull our spawn position, our spawn position, and this is what's going to pull our enemy out of the array. Enemy spawned and wave attack, this is going to be because we're going to do waves of attack. So I just set up something basic to where we're going to have, after 3 enemies are spawned, it's going to go to the second wave of attack, and then it's going to do 3 more, and then it'll up again. So this is what's going to keep track of that. The spawn timer is actually going to make it to where it takes about 2 seconds before the spawn actually transpires. Instead of using an IE numerator, I went ahead and I want to show you how to make a timer in case you didn't know how to do that. And I created a private bool of whether or not the level is complete, because we do want to be able to level up to the next level if everything is completed. We're going to use that boolean to set the scene management to go to the next level. And a public static bool for can spawn enemy. That's going to pretty much, if the enemy is dead, then right here you see that we are going to set can spawn enemy to true whenever the enemy dies, and that's pretty much how we're going to complete that's how we're going to yeah, that's what's gonna initiate the spawn sequence. Alright, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there. So anyway, I make the enemy spawn 0 upon start and wave upon start, so that each new level we go to, these will start at 0. The total spawns, I think they'll be alright like that, because yeah, I might end up having to fix that and put these down here into the, so every time it starts, everything will be at 0 each new scene. The spawn timer, we're gonna set it to 2 because that's where we want it. Well, that's where I want it. You might feel differently. So once again, we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna count how many spawn zones are actually, how many spawns are in the spawn zone. And we're going to do the same thing for the total enemies in the array. And we want to set can spawn enemy to true, so when we start the game we will spawn one right off the bat, and the level is not complete, so we'll just set that to false. In the update, we want to check if we can spawn the enemy, and we want to make sure that that's true. And we also don't want to spawn an enemy if level complete is true, because it's pretty much over, so we don't want to do that. So now spawn timer equals a floating point of 2, so we're just going to subtract that by time.delta time, and it's going to count down basically. So if the timer hits 0 or less, it's going to reset the spawn timer, which will automatically assure that this only runs one time, and it's going to call the spawn enemy function. So that way we only get one enemy that pops out. And if level complete is true, then we want to start the coroutine to level up. And for spawn enemy, this is where the magic happens right here. We want to set that to false so that that only runs one time as well. We just want to make sure that it don't keep doing it. And the enemy spawned, we're going to add 1 to that. Then we want to check is if this is less than or equal to 3, then we want to take our enemy index and we want to randomize it based upon the total enemies, and we want to do that between the total spawns. So that's going to give us a number to randomly generate, and then we want to instantiate something from the enemy list based upon the enemy index, and we want to do the same thing based upon the spawn zone of the spawn index, and we want its position, and that's where it's going to spawn to. And we don't really need a rotation, so I just did identity. And otherwise, if the enemy spawned actually equals more, it's greater than 3, then we want to add 1 to the wave attack. So as long as wave attack is less than 3, it's gonna basically spawn another enemy. Otherwise, the level is complete and we can level up. Now to do that, the way I did it was an IE numerator, and I just set level complete to false so that it only runs once. Wait 5 seconds, and then we're gonna get this current scene and we're gonna add 1 to it, so it'll basically take us to the next level. And let me check in here. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to this tutorial. In the next one, I'm gonna teach you how to do a pause scene so that you can actually pause the game while you're playing. And we're getting to the point to now where we can take what we have and we can duplicate it, and we can create, I don't know, let's just do like 5 levels or something, since this is just a quick game. You can do 10 or however many levels you want, really. And then we're going to get into designing a boss, and we're going to set it up to where the boss can change states, to where he can get angrier as the battle goes. You know, he can get more vicious, add more to his attack. And once you beat the boss, then we'll start getting into doing the ending sequences and credits, and you know, congratulations, you finished your game. So that's all coming up pretty soon, and I hope you tune in. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next Skits Tut, baby. Yeah.